After he established his Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, uh, uh, it is not in common knowledge that the first student who was enrolled in the college was not a Muslim, it was a Hindu.
Hello friends, my name is Abhay Kumar and today my guest is Aligarh Muslim University Professor Ali Nadeem Rizvi. He teaches history at AMU and the occasion is very apt. Today is October 17th and 204 years back, the great Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the founder of Aligarh Muslim University, was born on this day, 17th of October, 1917.
Well, Abhayji, first of all, let me thank you for inviting me. As you rightly pointed out, I am, a student of medieval Indian history, uh, and have nothing to do with modern Indian history. Unfortunately, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan belongs to the 19th century. My concern with Sir Syed is the fact that he is the founder of my alma mater. But as a historian, his time is beyond my purview. So remember this when I have to say something. Uh, I would urge all of you to remember, all those who are seeing this program, all those who have read about Sir Syed, the various types of views, controversial views about Sir Syed. Uh, all of us should remember that we are talking about a personality which is not our contemporary. He was not living in 20th century India or 21st century of India, which now is continuing. He is a person who was born in 1817 and died before the 19th century would end. So he is very much a product of the 19th century, and we should actually look at him and his thoughts, keeping this in view that we are dealing with a totally different time, totally different ethos, totally different thought process which prevailed during that period of time. Having said that, uh, Sayyid Ahmad Khan uh, appears to be a man much before his time. He was a man who, in fact, uh, talked about modernity. He was a person who wanted his calm. Now, this is a very, ticklish issue. I mean, this is one of the controversial issues that what did Sir Syed mean by the term calm? In fact, whenever Sir Syed talked about calm, the modern scholars have tried to interpret it as the Muslim calm. Although, uh, by the term calm, uh, or what has been translated into English, nation, he did not actually mean a particular religious community. And it is not me who is saying that. I will just give you a quotation of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan himself. A quotation, which uh, he from one of the his addresses, which Sir Syed had delivered in 1884 at Gurdaspur. Actually, on 27th of January 1884, in which he says that I give the English rendering. O Hindus and Muslims, do you belong to a country other than India? Don't you live on the soil? And are you not buried under it or cremated on its ghats? If you live and die on this land, then bear in mind that Hindu and Muslim is but a religious word, one home. All the Hindus, Muslims, and Christians who live in this country are one nation, one home. So I think this quotation from one of the speeches of Sir Syed proves beyond doubt what he actually meant by the term home. He was talking about both Hindus and Muslims together, and this was an address which he gave in 1884. After he established his Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, it is not in common knowledge that the first student who was enrolled in the college was not a Muslim. It was a Hindu. Not only the first person who was enrolled, but all those, if you look at the list of all those who graduated from the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College during the period when Sir Syed Ahmad Khan himself was alive, a number of them were non-Muslims. I would give you only one name, a name which is in the news, was in the news lately. Raja Mahendra Pratap. Mahendra Pratap, a person, if you would have gone through the newspapers, his descendants claim that he had donated certain pieces of land and they want that land back from AMU. Now, Raja Mahendra Pratap was in fact called by Sir Syed to be a part of his MAO college. Sir Syed was a friend of Mahendra Pratap's father, who was a zamindar near Aligarh, and he wrote a letter to his friend that please send your son to study in my college. So Mahendra Pratap came, and at least till 1906, he had been a student of the MAO college from the time of Sir Syed. So what I want to say is that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who sometimes is depicted as one of the proponents of the divisive theory on the basis of religion, if you actually look at his works, his own life, that gets totally belied. I can't hear you. Your voice is not there.
Sir, not only scholars who uphold Pakistan movement, those who have been supporter of Muslim League, I think many secular historians in India also, they have been hesitant to appreciate the legacy of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Why
yes,
is it
yes.
this? Is because he was a Muslim?
Not really. The thing is that when we talk in the 21st century, we are surrounded by the concepts and theories of the 20th and 21st centuries. Our mind is tuned towards that, and that is why when I started, I said, don't forget that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was existing during the 18th century, a period when such terms like secular, were not there. Uh, if you look at most of its contemporaries, Muslim and non-Muslim, all of them were working for the betterment of their own communities, and it was nothing suspicious. That is how, during the 18th century, the things were working out. But as far as, if you look at the writings of Sir Syed, yes, he gives some precedence and importance to the Muslim community, but he also takes into account the non-Muslims whom he finds to be the brothers of the Muslims. Now, for example, when he started collecting the donations for the college, large number of, major donations were contributed for the MAO college by the Hindus to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. It was not the Muslims who were coming around with, say, 50,000 rupees for the establishment of a college. Maharaja Patiala paid that much amount. Maharaja Darbhanga Maharaj, he gave the grants to Sir Syed. So, that was a different time altogether. As you pointed out a few minutes back, that there are such allegations on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan that possibly he was in favor of Parda and not so much in favor of the women education. That is also something which is reflective of the times in which he was living. When MAO College was established, it was established for the boys. There is no doubt about it. The girls were never given admission to the college. This is also a fact. But why so? Even the fact that the Muslims were being asked by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan to send their children to the college, they were reluctant. They were hesitant. They did not want to send their children to an institution where Angrezi and science was being taught. They wanted to send their children to the madrasas. After 1857, a thinking had developed among the Muslim elites that we should shun the English language and English education. So it was with great difficulty that Sir Syed was collecting the boys for his, and even when he established the college and college started running and certain batches started coming out, the Muslim fundamentalists of that period started a grand propaganda against Sir Syed, calling him Naturi, calling him a kafir, calling him a person who is a Satan, a person who would go to hell. Now imagine at a time when Sir Syed was being opposed by the fundamentalists in such a fashion, how could he have also talked about women's education? It was unthinkable. But did Sir Syed not do anything for the education of the girls? No. One of his friends, Sheikh Abdullah, he was a Kashmiri Pandit. He is known as Papa Mia, who was at Aligarh along with his wife Alabi. We have evidence that Sir Syed in fact talked to these people, Papa Mia and Alabi, and encouraged them to open a separate college for the girls. And thus, a few decades after the establishment of the MAO college, the girls' school, which is situated very near, just adjacent to the house of Papa Mia, was established by Sheikh Abdullah and his wife. Today, that school has now turned into a women's college, which is affiliated with the Aligarh Muslim University. The moment in 1920, when Aligarh Muslim University, when MEO College became a university, Abdullah Girls College became one of the part and parcel of this very university. It would not have been possible for Papa Mia to go ahead and establish this college, but for the help which the founders of Aligarh Muslim University, including Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the role they played. It was due to their efforts that this college could be actually established. So in a way, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who is sometimes maligned by those who are unable to understand his thought that he was only talking for the Muslims. In fact, if you read his writings, if you look at his work, that very much gets belied. I'll just give you one more example. Again, something which is not very well known, and that is that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the same person who was also doing the tafsir of the Quran, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan did write a tafsir, and that became one of the reasons that fatwas against Sir Syed Ahmad Khan were given, because he tried to reinterpret the meaning of the Quran through his tafsir. In fact, he also questioned the existence of angels and heaven and hell. All those concepts were actually challenged by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan due to his modern educated mind. But he was doing some tafsir Quran. He went to London pursuing one of the authors who had written a biography of the Prophet Muir, which was thought to be anti-Prophet, and so Sir Syed wanted to give a reply to him, so he went all the way to London to collect material to reply back to that book. So the same person who was, doing such type of work, which sometimes is lauded by the Muslim community, sometimes derided by the Muslim community, the same person is found collecting these sculptures, Jain, Buddhist, Shaivite, Vaishnavite, which were all scattered around the district of Aligarh. In fact, Sir Syed, during his free time when he was at Aligarh, he would go out for surveys, explorations, collect these ancient remains. He was not concerned that they are, icons of some other religion. He brought them, kept them, and when he established the college, MEO College, one of the first buildings which Sir Syed constructed along with the Stucci Hall was the building of a museum. Because the funds for this museum was given by the Nizam of Hyderabad, this museum building came to be known as Nizam's Museum. So if you come to the old campus of MEO College, you would still find the Nizam's Museum, which is just adjacent to the Stucci Hall constructed by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. It is in fact between the Jama Masjid of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and the Stucci Hall. In between them is the Nizam Museum, and it was in this museum that all these ancient artifacts, which were related to the old religions of India, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, they were kept there. Unfortunately, after the death of Sir Syed, there was some exhibition before our independence. There was some exhibition which was being organized by the collector of Agra, and we have letters in the Sir Syed collection that the collector wrote a letter to the Aligarh Muslim University authorities, the MEO College authorities, that please send some of these artifacts for the exhibition, which would be temporary. The collector sent his people. Most of the material was lifted from Aligarh, transported to Agra. Now, where it disappeared, none of us knows. In spite of that, that material, which was not taken away by the English collector, is still at Aligarh. It is now in the form of Sir Syed collection within the University Museum, which exists in one of the buildings of the Kennedy Hall. Today, that museum is known as Musa Dakri Museum, and the whole gallery is, in fact, full of those sculptures and pieces from, temple and building friezes, jambs, pillars, sculptures, Jaina, Buddha, Shiva. All those collections, personally collected by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, are still with the Aligarh Muslim University. What I want to say is that Sir Syed had a very broad thinking. He was not trying to, differentiate between the past of the Hindus and the past of the Muslims. जो पाकिस्तानी बात करते हैं आपसे, पाकिस्तान में ऐसा दिखाया जाता है कि सर सैयद जो थे वो एक मुस्लिम पास्ट को ढूंढ रहे थे. No, Sir Syed was, in fact, even if you look at the Athar al-Sanadid, which was written by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, दो editions हैं उसके, both different editions. One is heavily edited with the help of his English friends, giving it a modern touch. But in both these editions, all type of monuments, whether of ancient period or medieval, whether tombs or temples, whether mosques or khanqahs, all have been included and described. Not only that, Sir Syed was also in his Athar al-Sanadid noting down the epigraphs. So जब ये एपिग्राफ नोट करते हैं, naturally Sir Syed knew Persian. After all, he was trained in the Mughal court. His father was one of the courtiers of the latter Mughals. His grandfather was one of the courtiers of the latter Mughals. He was well versed in the Persian historiography and the language. He also knew Arabic, but unfortunately, as far as the Indian languages were concerned, Sir Syed, for example, could never read Brahmi script. Brahmi was deciphered by James Prinsep. बहुत बाद में, you would not expect poor Sir Syed to read that. But what he does is that when he encounters these ancient epigraphs in languages which he cannot read or decipher, Sir Syed उसे छोड़ नहीं देते. He doesn't leave them. There are many translators of present day India. When they find some text to be a little complex or beyond their capacity, they just leave it. एक किताब है अकबर के पीरियड की, आरिफ कंधारी की लिखी हुई. He has left behind an account of Akbar. It was translated by a scholar who was also once a member of the ICHR, Delhi, Indian Council of Historical Research. When he was translating this work, he found certain verses and passages which were beyond his capacity to translate. तो अपने एडिशन में, अपने ट्रांसलेशन में उस चीज को उन्होंने ऐसे ड्रॉप कर दिया कि जैसे वो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता. There are certain verses composed by Akbar himself. This poor translator could do nothing with that, so he just ignored it. तो जो ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ रहे हैं उनको समझ में आ रहा है कि कुछ था ही नहीं ऐसे. सर सैयद ने ये नहीं किया. What Sir Sayyid did was that although he could not read or decipher these epigraphs in Sanskrit or Brahmi, what he did was that he copied them verbatim. Accounts मिलते हैं कि सीढ़ियों के ऊपर चढ़ के और लकड़ी के स्लैब पे he would sit and very painstakingly he would note down, so much so that in his Asarus Sanadi today you would find the reproductions of those inscriptions, some of which unfortunately do not survive now, and the only source for them is their rendering in Asarus Sanadid by Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. What I am trying to say is कि Sir Sayyid इतने यानी खुले दिमाग के हैं और ऐसा उनका स्कॉलरली एक रवैया है कि वो जो दूसरे, जो आजकल के बकौल अगर पाकिस्तानी हिस्टोरियन को सुन लो या हिंदुत्व के हिस्टोरियन जो आजकल सर सईद अहमद खान को ये प्रूव करने में लगे हुए हैं कि वो तो जड़ है पाकिस्तान की. In fact, there are many who keep on claiming that Aligarh Muslim University is the cradle where whole Pakistan movement took place, and they accuse Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan for that. It is not only Pakistanis who do that. There are many among the Indians who do that. Not only the Hindutva elements, but there are many Muslim elements who also do that. It is for them that they should understand कि सर सैयद जिनको आप इस टाइप से टू नेशन थ्योरी के लिए आप एक्यूज कर रहे हैं, वो शख्स वो है तो जो दोनों चीजों को इकट्ठा कर रहा है और किसी को इग्नोर नहीं कर रहा अपने राइटिंग्स, अपने कलेक्शंस में. यानी आज भी जो सैयद का कलेक्शन है, Abhay ji, you will be surprised to know that there is only one antiquity which belongs to the Muslim period, the epigraph of Sultan Balban. एक ही है जो सुल्तानों की कोई चीज है जो सर सैयद कलेक्शन में थी. बाकी everything which he collected, preserved, conserved, are all Jain, Hindu and Brahmanical. So Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan is let me just say that he is a very complex person, no doubt. उसको आप राइटिंग्स पढ़िएगा, अगर बिल्कुल आंखें बंद करके पढ़िएगा तो there are many passages which might try to mislead you कि ये क्या है. But at the end of it, the sum total of the result which you get for that man is that here is a man who is interested कि Hindustani, whether Hindus or Muslims, should get modern education. Naturally, he is concerned about Muslims because after the Ghadar, after 1857, it is the Muslim community which is being discriminated by the British. They are not being given any, jobs in the government offices. So it is but natural that Sir Sayyid is trying to give precedence to them. But he never stops. In fact, as I just told you, he is writing letters to the non-Muslims. अपने बच्चों को भेजो और वो बच्चे उसके MAO कॉलेज में पढ़ रहे हैं. So this was the Sir Sayyid जिसको आज 204 साल पूरे होने के बाद भी हम लोगों को इस वजह से उनको सेलिब्रेट करना चाहिए. कोई आदमी परफेक्ट नहीं. Let us also remember, मैं आपको एक, अभय जी अगर आपका टाइम ना वेस्ट हो रहा हो तो एक आपको एक मिसाल देता चलूं. आप यू आर ऑल्सो अ पार्ट ऑफ history. Akbar is supposed to be the prophet of Sulhekul, but what was he doing half the life? He was discriminatory. He imposed jizya. He dug out graves and threw out people because they were non-Sunnis, non-Hanafis. He did all type of things. But gradually and slowly, he transformed into a man who came up with the policy of Sulhekul. Similarly, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was born at a time after 1857, especially was the time when there was a clash of Hindus and Muslims. It was a time when the Company Bahadur and the government which had replaced the Company Bahadur was discriminating against a particular community. It was but natural for Sir Syed to talk about protection to a particular community. But as he gradually developed as a man, as a leader, we find that by the end of it, he emerged as a person who was talking about educating and forwarding the interest of all the Indians, not only the Muslims.
Sir, some questions have also been sent for you. Khwaja Tabriz, I think he is our Facebook friend. He is asking questions about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's political views, and Sir Syed had to face extreme antagonism from the ulama. Much of his differences with ulama you have already, I think, said
देखिए
and talked about. But I also have one questions, and you can just club all of them. Sir Syed, when I was doing my MPhil in JNU, and my work was on 19th century discourse on Muslim backwardness. So I also did some work on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. And during my work, my teacher gave me one letter of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan to Badruddin Tayyab ji, who was then the Congress president. And Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is saying that Badruddin Tayyab ji, Muslims association with the Congress party in this form will not serve the interest of the community. And this letter is being read in such a way that he was opposed to all India nationalism. But people generally don't appreciate his concern that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was aware of the fact that in Uttar Pradesh, with the introduction of what should I say, elections where votes and number count, I think Hindu fundamentalists and Hindu communal forces were becoming very
you are right.
aggressive, and he realized the
I
limitations of
have
vegetarian politics. And his
uh,
basic concern was that without protecting the rights of the minority, any vegetarian government will not usher in true democracy and true justice. I think this concern is also somehow linked with what Baba Sahib Ambedkar has been talking about all through his life, that no one class should be given responsibility to take care of the interest of all the classes. So Ambedkar's concern is
uh,
also somehow, in my reading, converges on what Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and other Muslim leaders are saying. Given
uh,
the rise of Hindu vegetarianism and the erosion of what should I say, the composite culture, aggressive nationalism, I should say, do you think that we have to read Sir Syed Ahmad Khan with fresh mind, that he is the person who had some insight about how to deal with hard Hindutva or hard communalism of any sort? Sir, your comment.
there are, I mean, in your comment, there are actually a large number of questions hidden within it. Let me answer Mr. Tabrez. Tabrez Saab, you asked about the political leanings of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Let me say it like this, that in the initial stages, Sir Syed was not at all interested in any type of politics. Uh, he had served as a munshi and as a clerk, first under the English East India Company. He was a mulazim of the English East India Company. Later on, he served the British Crown. Right. Uh, at the time when the Ghadar took place, 1857 took place, which was, you know, a path-breaking movement as far as India was concerned. Sir Syed was at Bareilly. He was serving in some official capacity to the, East India Company government at that time. He also, in fact, was involved in, saving a number of, um, English officers who had been surrounded by the rebels in the Bareilly region. So he helped. Ultimately, Sir Syed also wrote a pamphlet in which he tried to argue why Muslims should support this particular type of God. So half the time of his life, that was how he was, a government servant serving the interest of his masters. He was well aware, and he was actually convinced that he was serving a government which cannot be disposed of. It was a firm belief during that particular period that the British government after 1857 was a government where the sun never sets. And so he keeps on advising the people, Muslims especially, because Muslims are those who suffered in 1857. They lost their jobs. They boycotted, English education. They were not taken into government service. Their zamindaris were lost. Hindus also lost, but comparatively, a large number of Muslims lost everything during the revolt of 1857. Remember the territories, the region where 1857 revolt had taken place. And Sir Syed, the politics of Sir Syed became that he kept on endeavoring how to recover the loss of these people, advising them, अंग्रेजी पढ़ो, science पढ़ो. This government can never be overthrown. It is impossible. So please collaborate with it. I'm not justifying that Sir Syed was right or wrong, but this is how he kept on behaving. But gradually, at a time when the national movement started growing, फॉरन 1857 के बाद नेशनल मूवमेंट नहीं ग्रो कर गया था, कोई भी नहीं ग्रो कर गया था. देयर वाज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ एनीवन अपोजिंग द ब्रिटिश. यहां तक के टिल गांधी जी रिटर्न बैक फ्रॉम साउथ अफ्रीका, द कांग्रेस व्हिच हैड बीन एस्टैब्लिश्ड वाज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय A.O. Hume. And it was a group of elite middle class people. It had no connections with the masses, nor was it fighting for the independence of the country. Right? So at a time when Congress was established, National Congress was established by A.O. Hume, a large number of leaders from Bengal and other areas joined it, but all of them middle class, all of them elites in the society, पढ़ा लिखा, अमीर आदमी. Sir Syed remained silent. He did not comment anything. Wait and watch. But soon, when the activities of the Congress started, for example, you know, stress on, cultural Hindu traditions, it was at that time that Sir Syed started saying that Congress is a body which is dominated by the Bengali Babus, and they are not something on which we should rely upon. He was very skeptical. The third stage. In the third stage, the politics of Sir Syed became a politics where he tried to devote his full attention towards providing education. संभल में स्कूल खोला, गाजीपुर में स्कूल खोला. Ultimately, when he was a government servant, he had visited Aligarh. He had seen this area. And then ultimately, after retirement, he decided to come and settle at Aligarh and started with his MEO college. And when he started with this mission, his movement for education, and started demanding funds begging for funds from the people, he did not join any party. उनकी सिर्फ एक सियासत बची थी, और वो ये सियासत थी कि वो एजुकेशन पे बात करें और एजुकेशन को आगे बढ़ाएं. He was critical of Bengali Babus. He was not critical of the Hindu community. Let us also remember that national movement does not only mean the Congress. Opposing the Congress before Gandhi does not qualify someone to become an anti-national. अरे भाई 1930 से पहले तो हमारे जिना जी के फरिश्तों को भी आइडिया नहीं था कि कोई चीज पाकिस्तान होती. उनको भी आइडिया नहीं था. और जिस वक्त हमारे वीर सावरकर और जिना, when they talk about the two nations, Hindu and Muslim, I don't know about Savarkar, but at least I know about Jinnah, that even after the creation of Pakistan, he was actually not believing in the concept of Pakistan, क्योंकि नेहरू को खत लिखा कि मेरी प्रॉपर्टी जो है, जो घर है, इसको ऐसे ही रखिएगा, मैं आऊंगा, आई विल कम. उन्हें समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि उन्होंने क्या कर दिया है. तो ये जो पाकिस्तान का जो एक ख्वाब था और ये पाकिस्तान का जो एक कंसेप्ट था, पाकिस्तान के बनने के बाद भी उसके जो बनाने वाले थे, दे वर नॉट श्योर व्हाट इट वाज. Why drag in poor Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who died much before the idea germinated into it? Whatever the politics of Sir Syed was, it was for educating the masses, the public, whether Hindu or Muslim. Yes, he gave importance to a particular community, to the Muslims. It is also a fact that when you look at the roll list of the students at MEO College, most of them belong to the category of Shurafa. भाई मेरे उस पीरियड में कौन अफोर्ड कर सकता था अपने बच्चों को हॉस्टल में रख के पढ़ाई करवाना? Even today, how many of the people who do not have the money can afford an elite education for their children? It was the zamindars, the Muslim gentry, and the Hindu gentry. Many sons and daughters of Hindu Rajas and Maharajas, just like the sons and daughters of Muslim zamindars, were students at Aligarh. Who else? It is only and only after India started getting modernized 80s onwards. बिल्कुल अलग बहस है, but I have been a student of this place. It is only after 80s that so-called non-Shurafas, the people belonging, students belonging to the non-elite classes, backward classes, started getting admission in places like Aligarh. It was not that Sir Sayyid was only interested in the Shurafa. That was the time. इसके अलावा कौन आ रहा था?
Sir, his life is full of events, and I don't think that one discussion on social media is good enough to capture even 1% of what he has done and what he has said. So we will again invite you and ask you to dwell upon some other aspects of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Last question, which is very relevant also and very sad and ironical also, that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan talked about the education of Indians, particularly Indian Muslims, because they were the most sufferers post 1857 the revolt. And Aligarh Muslim University was founded in the late 19th century. In 2021, I think almost 150 years later, after the foundations of Aligarh Muslim University, Muslims are educationally backward. I think their population is something around 13 to 14%, but in higher education, they are not more than 4 to 5%. Even in service commissions, they are abysmally reduced to 3 to 4%. So, in modern India, where a secular constitution is in practice, so-called secular government has been in power for so many years, but Muslim remains a backward community. So if Sir Syed Ahmad Khan would have been alive today, what kind of suggestions he would have given to the community, to Indians and to government for addressing backwardness of the country, particularly the Indian Muslims? Sir.
It's a very good question, but before I start answering that, let me also point out that I am not an astrologist or a fortune teller who would tell you what Sir Syed himself would have done. I don't know. I can just imagine what he would have done. He might have done just the opposite, for all that I know. You are quite correct that in spite of the fact that almost 100 years have passed since Aligarh Muslim University became a university. In fact, more than that, if you start counting the years when it existed as the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, but even if you minus that, in 1920, July 1920, when the act was brought about, or when it was actually implemented in December 1920, from that down to 2021 is 101 years of the existence of this particular university, which is now meant for the Muslims of the country. Remember, in the College of Sir Syed, there was nothing that it should be reserved for the Muslims. As I just said that non-Muslims were equally there, as were the Muslims. When it became a university in 1920, the name was Aligarh Muslim University, in the same way as when at Banaras, when the institution of Madan Mohan Malviya became a university, it was known as the Banaras Hindu University. Banaras Hindu University was not a university exclusively for the Hindus, nor, unfortunately, Aligarh Muslim University is exclusively for the Muslims. Even today, since its very inception, if you go to any course being run in the university which is technical in nature, you would find a ratio of 50-50 or 40-60 between Hindus and Muslims. It is only in subjects like which do not pay in arts, you would find a predominance of the Muslim students. Even if you look at whether it is the medical college or the Zakir Hussain college, you look at the women's college, you look at any of these associated colleges of the university, even there you would find that the exclusivity of the Muslim is not there. There is a demand that Muslim university should be converted into a minority institution, but so far it has not been done. This is number one. Number two, even if it had existed as an exclusive Muslim institution, you are quite correct to point out that one particular university cannot cater to the needs of the entire country. There are 12,000 or 16,000 students, हो सकता है 25,000 हो, something like that, at Aligarh Muslim University. Look at the population of the Muslims themselves in the entire country. Hardly 0.12% of the entire Muslim population would be getting the benefit of Aligarh Muslim University. You cannot depend on one university. Possibly what Sir Syed would have done is open more such educational institutions. I agree with Sir Syed Ahmad Khan that a community which lacks in education, whether they are the Dalits or the Muslims, should be given preference as far as education is concerned. There should be certain institutions which cater to their needs. One institution cannot take care of their need. आज हो ये रहा है कि Aligarh Muslim University has become a university only for one section of North Indian Muslim society. There were attempts by the Aligarh Muslim University, because Aligarh Muslim University in fact realized कि क्या problem है, and thus Aligarh Muslim University a few years back started its regional centers. For example, at Mallapuram, in West Bengal, in Bihar, at least 3 of these centers are functional. I think Sir Syed Ahmad Khan would not have sufficed only on regional centers. His Aligarh movement, जो आज Aligarh Tahreek, if the spirit of Aligarh Tahreek, the spirit of what Sir Syed Ahmad Khan stood up is to be followed, it is necessary that the government of the day, not the community, the government of the day, याद कीजिएगा सर सैयद के एमईओ कॉलेज में भी क्राउन और कुरान था. It's with the state that you have to grow. The government support. Without the government support, MAO college would not have been, was not possible to have been founded. Even today, कौन नहीं खड़ा कर सकती है किसी कॉलेज को या इंस्टीट्यूशन को. एक कौन बनाएगी तो वो एक प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशन बन के रह जाएगा, नथिंग एल्स. बट इफ यू वांट द इंडियंस, even if of particular community, to get education, the need of the hour is that along with the government of the day, there should be more such institutions as Aligarh, institutions which provide technical education, medical colleges, engineering colleges, colleges training you for business management. They should be established in the remote corners of the country. It is only then that one can think of some betterment in the position of the Muslim community.
Sir, thank you very much. We just planned that our discussion will go for 30 minutes, but it has lasted 1 hour. And my friends like me has been enriched by your informations in your experience as a student, as a professor, as a person living around Aligarh Muslim University. And what I have learned from your thought and your speech is that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan may have different moments in his life, and his statement might have give different connotations, but overall his message has been reforms for Indians, and that Indians include both Hindus and Muslims. And as you have said, that his vision has been very broad, and as some historians who have their agenda, those who are writing from across the border, they are trying to present him as the father of two nations. That is also not correct. Sir, I have had so many questions, but I could not ask. Hopefully, very soon, I will invite you. Yes.
But just one last comment, that the cause of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and the cause of Aligarh Muslim University has been harmed not by any person who is a non-Indian or a non-Muslim. Most of the harm has come from within the community. Even in the lifetime of Sir Syed, the most harm which was caused to Sir Syed was from his own community members. That unfortunately continues till date. Thank you very much.
Sir, we will be talking about this issue sometime in the future. Sir, thank you very much. And we all stand together in paying our tribute to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the great son of India, who committed his life to the education and reforms, and despite having very meager means, resources, his ideas and his vision was not limited. And Oxford, I think AMU was known as Oxford of the East. Sir, thank you very much for joining and talking to us. We will again invite you. Sir, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kindly like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel.